Prologue. For 16 years, I was nothing but a lackey to the noble consort. Then one day, the emperor glanced at me and said with a smile, "This maid of the noble consort, she's rather charming." After he left, the noble consort reclined lazily on her couch. Her pale fingers lifted my chin as she laughed softly. "Chun, shall we change emperors?" I trembled with excitement and pulled out the dagger I had long hidden beneath my pillow. After all, I had been waiting for this day, for far too long. Chapter 1. I was sold into General Shi's manor when I was only 6 years old. My whole body was filthy and dried snot streaked my face. The stewardess frowned and didn't want me. She thought a stupid girl like me could never serve a master properly. The human dealer grew anxious. He lashed me with a cane, ordering me to kneel and beg the old woman to buy me. But I refused. With my neck stiff, I loudly counted each strike. 12, 13. That was when Lady Shichujin appeared. She wore a crimson robe embroidered with golden threads. Her face was so fair and delicate, she looked just like a doll in a New Year's painting. The old stewardess instantly put on a flattering smile. But Lady Jin ignored her. She simply raised a jade-like finger and pointed straight at me. "This little girl, I want her." I only reacted when the dealer kicked me hard. Quickly, I dropped to my knees to thank her. Lady Jin laughed. "Weren't you just so stubborn a moment ago? Why are you kneeling so easily now?" I looked up at her honestly and said, "My father told me that only a bodhisattva deserves kneeling. And you, my lady, are like a bodhisattva." She chuckled, the sound like spring water. From that day on, I was assigned to serve her. But truthfully, I was clumsy and slow. I could barely manage simple tasks, yet Lady Jin liked me all the same. The old servant said the greatest ability of a maid was not skill, but winning the master's favor. Since Lady Jin favored me, I became the most capable maid in the manor. Back in my village, people believed in giving children lowly names for survival, so my father had called me Arya. But Lady Jin disliked the name. She renamed me Chun. She said, "Within a speck of dust lies 3,000 worlds. In half a breath, there can be 80,000 springs. Spring is a word that suits you well." That night, I lay under my blanket, whispering Chun over and over, my heart burning with warmth. What a beautiful name it was. Chapter 2. Lady Jin was the general's legitimate daughter, lively and mischievous by nature. When the apricots ripened in the courtyard, she led us maids to climb trees and pick them. The others were too afraid, urging her not to do something so dangerous. Only I wobbled forward with a small ladder. Lady Jin patted my head with a smile. "Good girl, Chun, you haven't disappointed me." She loved wearing red, like a flame, bright and free. I watched her in that blazing red among layers of green leaves. She was fire. She was a blooming flower. She picked a large basket of apricots. The first bite was so sour it made me scrunch my face. Lady Jin laughed even harder, her long, slender finger poking my forehead. "Chun, you look so ugly." At that age, I didn't understand beauty or ugliness. I only knew that if I made her laugh, it was worth it. So from then on, I often made silly faces to amuse her. Chapter 3. When Lady Jin turned 10, she became fascinated with weapons. As the daughter of a great general, she was born with courage. With a crimson spear in her hand, even at such a young age, she moved like the wind. But General Shi disapproved. He said a daughter of his should act like a refined lady, not wield weapons like a soldier. Yet Lady Jin stood tall like a pine tree and argued with him. "My father is the general of the empire. Naturally, I am not the same as those other sheltered young ladies." The general laughed helplessly and gave up on making her a proper noblewoman. She disliked the fragile manners of aristocratic girls. She was cheerful and bold like a wildflower blooming on the grasslands beneath the scorching sun. Her elder brother, Shun, was her opposite. Gentle, quiet, he preferred poetry and painting over swords. When Lady Jin practiced under the red plum tree, Shun would sit by the window, sketching the falling blossoms, the snow in winter, or the lazy cat on the wall. But most often, he painted her. Paintings of her in crimson robes, flying like fire. Sometimes I too appeared in his work, just a little maid with bright eyes fixed on the dazzling figure beneath the plum tree. When I stared too long at his drawing, Xian tapped my head with a finger and smiled. "Do you like it?" I nodded quickly. He handed the painting to me. I rubbed my hands nervously on my clothes before receiving it, treating it like treasure. From the window he teased, "You've spoiled this girl, sister. She fears nothing." Lady Jin turned, her face blooming with a smile. "She is mine. Of course, she should be free." She beckoned me over. I proudly showed her the painting. She pinched my cheek, laughing. "Such a silly girl. A shabby drawing is enough to make you so happy? My brother has plenty of better things. Do you want them too?" Then she pounced on her brother, and their laughter shook down the plum blossoms. Snow began to fall. A snowy year meant good fortune. I believed everything would go well from then on. Chapter 4. As the new year approached, the manor was busy with preparations. I was too small to help much, so I joined the older maids in cutting window decorations. On New Year's Eve morning, I volunteered to comb Lady Jin's hair. She raised a fist in mock threat. "If you mess it up, I'll have you sold back to the dealers." "You'd never do that," I replied with a smile, carefully twisting her hair into a bun. It took me a long time to learn, but I didn't want anyone else touching her hair. Her eyes lit up, praising me. She then pulled out a red silk pouch from her drawer. "A reward for you." I received it with joy. I didn't even need to look inside. I knew it must contain at least 10 silver taels. "My lady is the best." She tossed her head proudly and ruffled my hair. Then she skipped out of the room, and I chased after her. She turned back, making a face at me, only to bump straight into someone's arms. A tall youth, standing against the light. Unlike her brother, his features were sharp, his eyes deep like a dark pool that could swallow a soul. That year, Lady Jin was 13. One glance, and her life was bound to his. His name was Xiao Yufeng. Chapter 5. Not long after, war broke out. The northern tribes invaded, and General Shi rode to the battlefield. Xian, the only son of the Xie family, was forced to follow, though he hated war. Before leaving, the general forbade Lady Jin from leaving the manor. But she was restless. When the gates were locked, she tried climbing the walls. The general had already destroyed all the ladders. But he forgot about me. I crouched on the ground, letting Lady Jin step on my shoulders to climb up. She reached the top, but then froze, afraid to jump down. I scratched my head in frustration, unable to help her further. That day, she failed to leave. She sat atop the wall, gazing at the spring scenery outside, and I, below, spent the whole day gazing at her. The sunlight gilded her face, making her glow like gold. At that moment I thought, my lady deserves the best of this world. Chapter 6. The general returned victorious. Lady Jin rushed out barefoot at the news. I chased after her, holding her shoes. She threw herself into her father's arms. He now bore a scar from brow to temple, making him look even fiercer. I shrank behind Lady Jin, peeking at Xian. He had promised to bring her rouge from the north and flowers for me. But when I saw him, I hardly recognized him. His once fair face had darkened, his frame taller, sterner. The gentle scholar was gone. Now he carried the harsh aura of the battlefield. Yet when he saw Lady Jin, he smiled as before, his white teeth flashing, which made his sun-darkened face look even darker. Lady Jin made a face at him in return. Back at the manor, life was lively again. The general inspected his daughter's studies, first asking about her music. She played terribly, but he didn't notice. To him, the sight of her at the instrument was enough. At first, she practiced seriously. But soon, realizing her father was tone-deaf, she simply pressed random keys with the air of a noble lady. Xian and I could only stifle our laughter at the side. Chapter 7. Spring turned to autumn, and soon Lady Jin was 16, time for marriage. But I knew her heart already belonged to someone. It was one of Xian's friends, a young noble who often hunted with them. We had met him many times. Clad in white, riding his horse, he looked like a hero from a storybook. Sometimes Lady Jin raced against him. She always won, but instead of joy, she sulked. "He doesn't take me seriously. He never fights me with all his strength," she grumbled. Proud as she was, she couldn't bear being dismissed just because she was a girl. One day, he yielded again, praising her as a heroine. She demanded another race. Horses thundered, dust filled the air, and I lost sight of them. When they returned, she had lost. But her eyes sparkled, her cheeks flushed like peach blossoms. Lady Jin had always been bold, even in love. She confessed her feelings openly. That was when General Shi grew furious for the first time. He raised a whip to punish her. Lady Jin knelt, back straight, declaring, "My husband must be the man I love. If not, I would rather never marry." The whip cracked through the air, I threw myself in front of her. The blow landed on my back. Pain seared like never before. I knew then the general was truly angry. Because the boy she loved was no ordinary noble. He was none other than Crown Prince Xiao Yufeng. Chapter 8. My lady was like a phoenix soaring in the skies. Naturally, the man she admired could not be ordinary. Yet I still struggled to connect the playful young noble, who laughed, surrendered easily, and raced horses with us, with the dignified Crown Prince Xiao Yufeng. No wonder the general was furious. If Lady Jin were to marry an ordinary prince, it might still be acceptable. But the Crown Prince? He was destined to inherit the throne. He would never belong to only one woman. Besides, our dynasty valued scholars over warriors. As the daughter of a military family, Lady Jin could never become his official wife. Still, the Crown Prince personally came to the Shi Manor. Whatever he promised the general, I didn't know. But in the end, the general relented. The very next day, the imperial decree arrived. Lady Jin was to marry the Crown Prince, not as his wife, but as a secondary consort. She didn't care. She only knew she would marry the man she loved. With joy, she began preparing her wedding gown. But her hands, skilled with a spear, fumbled with the embroidery needle. When I looked at the tangled threads, I forced a compliment. "My lady, those butterflies are beautiful." She froze. I was trying to stitch mandarin ducks. In the end, I did the embroidery for her, while she lounged on the couch, happily eating grapes. Time flew quickly. Soon came the day of her wedding. Chapter 9. Though only a secondary consort, the Crown Prince gave Lady Jin great honor. She entered through the main gate, with music and laughter filling the halls. She had worn red countless times, yet never had she looked more radiant than on her wedding day. Watching her twist the red silk handkerchief nervously, my heart sank. Something about it felt unfair, though I couldn't explain why. For a time, she and the Crown Prince lived sweetly, like in a storybook. They painted brows together, shared wine before the mirror, and he indulged her whims. In summer, she splashed barefoot in the pond, dragging him in after her. His pale robe was soaked, but he only smiled, letting her laugh freely. I thought then, if only it could always be like this. But the Crown Prince was fated to marry a proper wife. The Empress Dowager chose carefully and decided on the legitimate daughter of Chancellor Jiang. Lady Jiang was frail and rarely appeared in public. Neither my lady nor I had ever met her. We both assumed she would be weak, unthreatening. We were wrong. On the Crown Prince's wedding day, the palace was decorated in dazzling red. My lady, as a mere consort, had no right to attend. She stayed in her chambers, covering her ears against the noise outside. I made silly faces to cheer her. She laughed, poked my forehead and muttered, "So ugly." But later in the dark, her voice trembled. "Chun, do you think Yufeng also drank the wedding wine with her? Did he promise her forever? Did he kiss her too?" She didn't finish. Her tears fell silently in the dark. That night, I was too foolish. I thought mocking another woman would make her smile. But my lady was too kind. How could such words comfort her? Chapter 10. The next morning, we finally met Lady Jiang, now the Crown Princess. She was gentle, yet carried a strength that could touch the heart. I had expected her to assert dominance, but she only smiled, accepted my lady's tea, and gave her a red pouch. Who would have thought the Shi family's daughter is so lovely, truly delightful? She didn't call her secondary consort but sister. She called her Jin kindly, warmly. For once Lady Jin was flustered. Her ears turned red as she clumsily accepted the gift. The Crown Princess was too good. No one could resent her. Even my lady couldn't hate her, though she cried alone many nights. She told me, facing someone like her is like facing a shining pearl. She was born to deserve the best in the world. But in my heart, my lady was the brightest pearl of all. The Crown Princess's health was fragile. In winter, she often couldn't rise from bed. One night, the whole palace heard her and the Crown Prince arguing. When we arrived, she sat pale on the bed, blood on her lips. She tried to rise, but Lady Jin rushed to her side. "Don't. Your health matters most." The Crown Princess forced a smile, though sorrow filled her eyes. "My family has already given me, why must he also take my younger sister? She's still so young." We then learned the Crown Prince wished to bring the Jiang family's younger daughter into the palace. The Crown Princess opposed it fiercely. For a while, the matter was dropped, especially after she was found to be pregnant. The crown prince doted on her, guarding her day and night. But I could see it clearly, his wariness of Lady Jin. And my lady saw it too. Chapter 11. On the day of labor, the crown princess suffered terribly. Lady Jin knelt before Buddha all night praying, though she never believed in gods. But prayers went unanswered. The crown princess died in childbirth, leaving behind a stillborn child. At first, everyone thought it fate, her body too weak, her life too short. But later, musk was discovered in her chambers. Someone had poisoned her. Suspicion immediately fell on Lady Jin. The crown prince stormed to her, demanding answers. I shielded her with my body, but she pushed me aside. The two quarreled violently. She was confined, and scarcely a week after the crown princess's death, her younger sister was brought into the palace. The drums of celebration echoed, while my lady wept through the night. I tried to cheer her with silly faces, but she never smiled again. Chapter 12. Later, my lady conceived. For a while, she and the crown prince seemed close again, but her child was lost. They said she slipped and fell. She swore someone had spilled oil. She begged the crown prince to avenge their child, but he only brushed her hand away coldly. This is your retribution. She stared at him in disbelief. Xiao Yufeng, that was your child too. How can you be so cruel? He replied. And what about Yuniang's child? Who will seek justice for it? Then he left. My lady laughed and cried at once, whispering that it was all her punishment. I held her in my arms. The woman once so bright and radiant was now frail, a shadow of herself. Though she became the noble consort, though she wore splendid robes, though she held her head high in the palace, I always remembered the girl who climbed walls and raced horses. The one who laughed like spring. Chapter 13. Though she became the noble consort, I still stubbornly called her my lady, as if nothing had changed. She indulged me as she always had. After the new emperor ascended the throne, more and more young women entered the palace. They bloomed like flowers, competing for his gaze. But the ones he favored most were those who resembled the late Empress Jiang. One day, I saw a girl dancing among the plum blossoms in a red cloak. Snowflakes mingled with petals as they fell. She looked strikingly like the young Empress Jiang. People whispered she was concubine Mei, the emperor's newest favorite. Her father was merely a county magistrate, yet her resemblance to the late empress made her rise above all others. When concubine Mei became pregnant, the palace buzzed with envy. But at 3 months, she lost the child. In the harem, life came and went quickly. To carry a child was easy. To raise it safely was not. Afterwards, she grew sorrowful. The emperor comforted her for a few days, then lost interest. The palace never lacked pretty faces. Love had little to do with it. But concubine Mei clung to his brief affection, as if it made her special. In truth, she was just another plaything. Chapter 14. My lady watched the palace struggles with cold detachment. Her youthful heart had long been worn away. As I dressed her one morning, I whispered, "My lady, Master Xian will return soon. I heard northern pastries are delicious. Maybe he'll bring some back for you." She rolled her eyes at me. "You glutton, aren't you too old for such cravings?" But I could see her mood soften at the mention of her brother. The old general had passed away, and Xie Xian now commanded the troops. He spent most of the year on the frontier. Because of him, the emperor still treated my lady with caution. She smiled faintly. "I haven't seen him in so long. He used to be so refined, now he's become a rough soldier. I wonder when he'll finally bring me a sister-in-law." Though her tone carried reproach, her voice betrayed fondness. I remembered Xian in his youth, dressed in white, painting beneath the plum tree, gentle as jade. But years of war had hardened him. When I saw him again, his face was darkened by sun, his body marked with scars. Still, when he smiled, he was the same brother he once was. That winter, he returned to the capital. The emperor allowed him into the palace. But instead of visiting my lady, he secretly summoned me outside. He handed me a bundle. "Give this to her. And inside, there's a little box wrapped in a pink handkerchief, for you." My eyes curved in joy. "You still think of me, Master Xian?" He patted my head. His hand was rough with calluses, but warm. "Song Chen, you've grown. Please, take care of her for me." His figure disappeared into the night. Inside the bundle were many gifts. My lady teased that her brother still treated her like a child, but her eyes sparkled with joy. For me, he had brought rouge. I tried to snatch a sweet cake from her in exchange. We laughed and wrestled like children. We thought we had endless tomorrows. We were wrong. Chapter 15. Accusations soon struck. Officials claimed General Shi Xian had embezzled military funds. When the palace guards dug beneath the peach tree in our manor, they found a doll bearing the emperor's birth date and even a prepared dragon robe. The emperor flew into rage and ordered Xian imprisoned. My lady knelt before the imperial study, her head striking the stone floor until it bled. Your Majesty, you grew up with my brother. You know his character better than anyone. My Shi family has given everything to this empire. Will you not grant us justice? Her cries grew sharper, but behind the doors came only the sound of flutes and laughter. The emperor knew the truth, but he needed an excuse to strip the Shi family of power. We were nothing but sacrifices. When Xian was executed, my lady wept as if her soul had been torn apart. I hated the emperor. He deserved death. I pulled out the dagger Xian had once given me. Protect her, even if it costs you blood, he had said. But now, he was gone. No one could protect us anymore. As I gripped the blade, a painting slipped from the bed. It showed Lady Jin dancing with her sword beneath the peach blossoms. Beside her, a little maid clutched a cat, eyes shining with awe. Xian had drawn it. I put the dagger away. I had to live, to stay by her side. The emperor stripped my lady of her title. From noble consort she fell to a lowly attendant. The women she once disdained now came to sneer and trample her. They thought she was finished. But I knew better. A pearl is still a pearl, no matter the dust. Chapter 16. On the 7th day after Xian's death, we burned offerings in the palace. Paper ashes rose like snowflakes. A favored concubine, Lady Shui, approached, covering her nose with a handkerchief. So unlucky, who dares burn funerary paper in the palace? Ah, it's the former noble consort. Oh wait, just attendant Shi now, she smirked. Impatient, are you? Want to join your brother so soon? My lady's eyes turned cold. Chun, slap her. I obeyed gladly. My slap left her face swollen. Enraged, Lady Shui tried to strike back, but I pinned her down and gave her 2 more. You'll regret this, she shrieked. We didn't care. Survival itself was already punishment enough. That winter was harsh. Rotten food, damp charcoal. Night after night, we huddled together beneath a single quilt. My lady clutched my hand and wept. Chun, I only have you left, only you. I held her tightly. My lady, I'll always be here. No matter fire or storm, I'll stand before you. During the imperial hunt, someone loosed an arrow and claimed the emperor's prize. The court froze in horror until they saw who it was. It was Lady Jin, dressed in riding clothes, her chin lifted proudly. She shone so brightly that every woman present seemed to fade. A pearl may be hidden by dust, but it never becomes a stone. The emperor was captivated. She was reinstated as the noble consort and favored more than ever. There was history between them, after all. She was reinstated as the noble consort and favored more than ever. Men are foolish that way. They believe every woman will yield to their charm. The emperor was no exception. He trusted neither loyal generals nor honest officials. But he believed in her tears as she knelt at his knee, whispering, Your Majesty, I only have you. And he believed. My lady reclaimed her power. Courtiers and concubines rushed to flatter her. But she saw no one. She didn't lower herself for petty favors. She had only one goal. Chapter 18. The palace grew restless, storms brewing behind silk screens. As I dressed my lady one morning, the emperor lingered nearby, watching. My hands were deft. Even the best palace attendants couldn't match my skill. Then he suddenly said, This maid of the noble consort, she looks more pleasing by the day. I froze. I knew his meaning. He didn't truly desire me. He simply hated seeing loyalty by her side. He wanted us divided. Before leaving, his eyes lingered on me. My lady reclined lazily on her couch, playing with her gilded nails. She beckoned me forward. I knelt before her. She lifted my chin with a pale finger, her lips curving in a bright smile. Chun, this emperor isn't good. Shall we change him for another? I stared at her, shocked. But her eyes were blazing with the same fire I had once seen in the girl who climbed walls and rode horses. I rested my head against her hand. At last I whispered, Yes. Chapter 19. The empress had grown frail after bearing the princess. She ate no meat, prayed day and night, and cared little for palace affairs. But the northern tribes demanded a princess be sent for marriage. The emperor agreed. From the founding of Great Zhou, no princess had ever been sent away. The first emperor had declared that such a union was shameful, a mark of weakness. Now the emperor abandoned that vow. There were only 3 princesses. The eldest, barely 8, was chosen. Gentle though she was, the empress bared her fangs for her daughter. She begged the emperor to lead the army himself instead. He refused, locking her away and decreeing that the little princess would marry into the barbarian lands. When the empress sought my lady's help, she wasn't surprised. So, Jianfu has finally stepped out from her turtle shell. My lady sneered. Chapter 20. The empress knelt before the Buddha, her face serene, yet her eyes sharp. This is my sin, she said bitterly. But my daughter should not pay for it. She is so young. To send her north is to send her to death. Those barbarians don't want peace. They only want to humiliate our royal house. Her beads snapped, scattering across the floor. For my daughter, I would sacrifice my life, she cried. Then she turned to my lady. I know you had a hand in this. It was your Shay family's disciples who urged the emperor to send the princess. My lady's expression remained calm. Yet as she turned to leave, she murmured, You too had a sister. How could you bear to harm her? Of course she meant the late Empress Jiang, poisoned by musk planted by her own beloved younger sister. For power, for favor. The truth no longer mattered. Chapter 21. The empress died in the imperial study. They said she quarreled bitterly with the emperor, and when he drew his sword, she flung herself upon it. Her blood sealed the matter. The princess was spared, and the marriage pact was abandoned. Ministers witnessed it all. Their resentment toward the emperor grew. That night, Chancellor Jiang collapsed from grief. Without the Jiang family, and having already destroyed the Shay family, the emperor's throne shook. When my lady heard of the empress's death, she lit a lamp and whispered, So she leaves her child to me. How bold. The empress had sought redemption. After betraying her sister, her conscience had tormented her. Meanwhile, the emperor grew restless, plagued by nightmares. A Taoist was summoned. His pills eased the dreams, but his words poisoned the throne. The palace's feng shui is cursed, he said. Evil spirits strangle the dragon's fate. The capital must be rebuilt. The emperor obeyed, draining the treasury, angering both court and people. Few remembered the third prince, long exiled to the south. He had grown up quietly, titled Prince Yu. Now, he returned with troops, claiming to cleanse the court of traitors. But the emperor never saw him. The Taoist poisoned him before the armies even arrived. His body was never recovered whole. Prince Yu entered the capital in tears and was crowned emperor. No one noticed the small palanquin slipping out of the palace that same night. Inside sat 3 people, the late emperor's noble consort, the little princess, and her most loyal maid. Chapter 22. My lady, I whispered, as the palanquin swayed beyond the palace walls. Where shall we go now? To Jiangnan, she said softly. I've never been there. You must come with me. So we left it all behind. The palace, the throne, the endless sorrow. Together we vanished into mountains and rivers, into skies wide and boundless. For her, I would walk through fire. Even if it meant the ends of the earth. So be it.